So we will begin with the Vajra lineage prayer. So we'll recite it in English. Please recite it with faith and devotion and thinking about the meaning as you recite the words. Great Vajradhara Naramar Bamilarepa Badharma Lord Gambo Banavara Sridham Karma and lineage holders of the elder four and younger age. The Trikontagun Salva, glorious Drupal, and so forth. Protectors of all beings, the Uniclotapokaju, who have gained mastery of the profound path Mahamudra. O Kaju Guru, heed my prayer, lineage I uphold. Please bless me so I may adopt your ways of liberation. Just as revulsions taught to be the legs of meditation, this meditator does not cling to any food or wealth, and severs all the ties that bind me to this present life. Please bless me to be unattached to honor or to gain. Just as devotion's taught to be the head of meditation, continually this meditator supplicates the Guru, who opens up the doorway to the trove of fifth instructions. Please bless me so that uncontrived devotion may well forth. As non-distractions taught to be the core of meditation, this meditator just remains, not altering at all the fresh and pristine essence of whatever thought occurs. Please bless me to be free from thinking there's a meditation. Just as is taught, the essence of all thoughts is Dharmakaya, not anything at all, and yet arising in all ways, appearing for this meditator in unceasing play. Bless me to know samsara and nirvana are not true. In all my future lifetimes may I never be apart from the authentic gurus and the qualities of all the paths and levels, and may I swiftly realize the state of Vajra Vidya. The Dharma expands spousal Akanishta is the essence of all Buddhas in the three realms, who shows me directly my mind is Dharmakaya. I prostrate to the glorious exalted Gurus. Please bless me and all sentient beings, that our minds become the Dharma. Please bless us that Dharma become the path. Please bless us that the path become dispel confusion. Please bless us that confusion arise as wisdom. Now please think to yourselves that we must bring all of our mothers, all sentient beings throughout space, to the state of completely perfect Buddhahood, the state of lasting happiness. And the only way to really bring all sentient beings to the state of lasting happiness is for ourselves to achieve that state. And so in this way, please listen to this teaching this afternoon with this motivation of bodhicitta. And the Dharma that we are listening to is the way of the Bodhisattva by the great being Shantideva. And of the 8 of the 10 chapters, we are discussing the 8th, the teaching on meditation. So the teaching on meditation has 2 main sections: the gaining solitude of body and mind, and then the meditation on relative bodhicitta. And in the that we're speaking about the latter, the meditation on relative bodhicitta. And for the meditation on relative bodhicitta, there are the meditations on the equality of self and other, and on the exchanging oneself from other. And we're speaking about the latter of these 2. I'm just following the traditional Tibetan idea of going through the whole outline, but it helps you know where you are. So in terms of the meditation, the equality of self and other, we have first, there is a section of just kind of logically proving why. Why can we exchange ourselves from other? What does it mean to exchange ourselves for other? And the idea that it's all through habituation. We cling to this body and mind as being me because of habituation. So we can logically cling to others, anything else as being me through a habituation. There's no difference. Essentially, what you're saying is that this piece of meat is the same as any other piece of meat, including the ones in the butcher shop. I'd like to see a little, imagine yourself wrapped up in saran wrap in the Fanafords. That's the first part. And then we come to the section on the actual meditations of meditating yourself on yourself and exchanging yourself for others. And there are 2 parts. There's the first where you transfer your ego clinging to other sentient beings. You take you cling to other sentient beings as yourself, and then you view this body and mind. That's the first part. We discussed about that this morning. And this was the exchanging yourself for the inferior, for the peer, and for the superior, these 3. And then there's the section after, it's followed by the section where you're taking where you are, instead of taking your ego clinging as being me, you take your antidote. In other words, your guardian angel, as I was saying this morning. But essentially, it's the antidote mind. The idea that the mind that is working against ego clinging, taking that as yourself, and then giving advice to the antidote mind. And so there are 2 sections to this. The one is where you're giving gentle advice, and the second is where you're excoriating, where you are just really telling the ego clinging mind, you better or else. Or else you're going to get it. And so we have come to that second one, the part where you're saying to your mind, do this or else. What is the or else? Do this or else you are going to suffer in the future. You are going to suffer. And you're going to, if we keep acting out of ego clinging, it's going to bring the suffering of the hells hungry ghosts and animals in the future. And even if we're reborn as a human by some miraculous chance, then we'd still experience the suffering of the human realm. So that's the part that we have come to. So it picks up here with verse 167. Do that, you must remain like this, and you must never act like that. So who are we speaking to? We're speaking to ego-clinging mind. You have to be like this. You have to exchange yourself for others. You have to stop clinging to yourself. You must never act like that. You must never act out of ego clinging that makes you act in bad ways. So here we're really scolding ego clinging. Exert your power over it. Punish it if it disobeys. So you're really being forceful. It's like you're like worse than the discipline master at a monastery. Of course, you can't beat your ego clinging. There's nothing to beat. But you're saying, you do. If mind, you will not act like that. So mind here means the mind of ego clinging. If mind, you will not act like that, even though I have told you to, you will indeed be subjugated. I will do the meditation on the antidotes. I'm going to get rid of you. I'm going to overcome you, since all wrongs are because of you. As we said, was it yesterday? What has this ogre done for me? The ego clinging. So we're talking about that ogre of ego clinging. All wrongs are because of you. So it's like sometimes you can sort of think of the ego clinging part of mind as like you want to get rid of that. You sort of think of that as like being some sort of demon or ogre, and you can even kind of personify it as like, you better, you're going to do like I say, or else. So it's being firm with your mind. Because why is it? Because all of our problems in samsara, no matter what they are, come from ego clinging. Even when something bad happens to us that is not seemingly under our control, the only reason it is a problem for us is because of ego clinging. The bad things, you can think about it like, sometimes some people have the same event happens to them. For one of them, it's a total catastrophe. And for the other, it's like, yeah, okay. Things went bad. So what? I'm going to move on. What's the difference? The difference is in the ego cling, the way that you're clinging to ego. Now, of course, the people are saying, yeah, so what? Are not necessarily free of ego clinging, but at least they're not clinging in that way. So when you think that something bad has happened to you, I'm going to give a personal example. The day my wife left me 30 years ago, 25. I can't count anymore. I don't need to count. Now that I'm a monk, I've gotten bad at arithmetic. The day that she left, I was distraught. I was wailing. Why? Because of ego clinging. And now, 25 years later, she's better off. I'm much better off. Other people, the wife walks out and it's like, oh, thank God, finally. Okay, I better go on before I say anything really horrible. The bygone days when you were able to ruin me were different. I see wherever you go now, I'll destroy all your vanity. So now this mind, your antidote mind, is looking at ego clinging and saying, I'm going to keep track of you. So you're going to use your mindfulness and awareness to keep track of ego clinging and see when it is working. That's in the past, you could ruin me. You could make me do misdeeds that would cause me to fall into hell. And the reason is because I was not being careful. I was not being mindful. I was not being aware. Now I'm keeping tabs on you. I see wherever you go now. So, I'll destroy all your vanity. Give up the idea that you still have purposes of your very own. Since I have sold you off to others, offer your strength without despair. So I, as the antidote mind, I've taken the Bodhisattva vow. I've made the aspiration that we discussed yesterday afternoon, or was it morning, whenever it was. I'll be the boat, the ship, the land for travelers. I'll be whatever you want. Let other sentient beings do whatever, then let them revile me, kill me, beat me, whatever they're going to do. You do it. You're fine. You do it. And the ego clinging, you have to put up with it. The only reason it hurts is because of you. I've sold you off to others. By doing that, we are then allowing ourselves to actually gain the true freedom. So it seems like we're being masochists, but actually this is the true way to happiness. Giving yourself completely to others, overcoming your ego clinging, using bodhicitta to devote yourself entirely to the service of others. Of course, as we touched on in the questions this morning, you have to look at your own level of practice, right? So what's important is that you have to go through the sequence. If you try to do this before you have internalized the 4 thoughts that turn the mind, before you have really meditated on Tonglen, you might be able to, but you might not be able to. And if you're not quite there, if you're still actually subtly clinging to you and the present and the pleasures and the benefits of this lifetime, then it is going to be hard, and there's the danger of burnout and so forth. And so you have to make sure you're ready. That means that you, as we says in the first of the 7 points, first train in the preliminaries. It's really important. So if you train in the preliminaries, train in bodhicitta, then when it comes time to do something like this, you'll be ready. We can be just like all those great beings who were, they're all the Jataka tales of the Bodhisattva saying, you want a piece of flesh? Sure, cut it out. You want an arm? Sure, happy to give it. You want my children? Excellent. Children didn't have much say. Those are the Jataka tales. We see the examples, as I often say, we see examples in our own lives of people who are willing to sacrifice themselves for the sake of others. Sometimes they do it in misguided ways. For instance, all those all those veterans who have gone over to Ukraine and fight. Now, their initial intention may have been a good one of wanting to, fight for an ideal or so forth. Their way of doing it is misguided because they're going to accumulate a lot of bad karma in terms of doing it, but their intention is good and they're willing to risk their own lives for it. So the willingness to risk your own life for something that you believe in, for something that you think is important, is actually not so uncommon. So if it is not uncommon in people on a worldly level who don't understand karmic cause and effect and are, as a result, going to do things that will cause themselves and others terrible suffering, if they can do it for that worldly end, why can't we do it for Buddhahood? Right? What's the difference? We want to think, I always use the example of firefighters who run into burning buildings. Okay, they make sure, they're trained and they are taught, similar to what Jan was asking the question, they are taught that you don't, and if you're a lifeguard, you're taught to be a lifeguard, you're taught you have to make sure that you're going to be safe yourself. But they're willing to run into those and into the buildings, and they do get trapped and get caught. Or we can think of police officers who every day are dealing with all sorts of people in all sorts of states. And, we can think about, there are criticisms about police officers, but the fact of the matter is that they put themselves in danger every day and they're willing to do it. So if they're willing to do it for a worldly reason, a paycheck, why aren't we willing to do it for Buddhahood? If I get careless and do not deliver you to sentient beings, it's certain you'll deliver me down to the keepers of the hells. So we have a choice. What are we going to do? If we get careless, in other words, if we stop valuing karmic cause and effect and thinking about remembering that there are things that we must not do and get careless, then we'll give in to ego clinging, and ego clinging will make us do bad actions that will result in bad rebirths. I've suffered long the many times that you have given me away. We've done this many times in the past. How many times are we going to let it happen again? Now I remember my resentment. I shall destroy your selfish thoughts. So resentment here, of course, resentment is an affliction. But remember, this is my resentment for this is ego clinging has done this to me in the past. And so here it's like the antidote resentment. So we're using the antidote of the afflictions, what looks like an affliction as an antidote for the actual affliction, and I shall destroy your selfish thoughts. Therefore, if you want to be pleased, do not make pleasure for yourself. If you want to protect yourself, continuously protect others. So as it says elsewhere, all of the pleasure comes from benefiting others, working for the benefit of all pleasure and happiness. Everything good comes from wanting to benefit all sentient beings. Everything bad comes from wanting to make yourself happy. So if you work for the benefit of others, the more selflessly you can do this, then the more happiness you can bring. And if you want to protect yourself, then you need to protect others. The more that I protect this body, the more it gets too tender and falls. So if we, basically what happens is we get too afraid. We cling to our body and we're afraid, I can't do this. I'm not ready for it. My body's not ready. I don't have the strength to do it. I haven't had enough sleep. I haven't done this. I can't do this benefit for sentient beings. The more you think like that, the more tender your body will get. And when you are too tender and you're holding back, you're cherishing your body too much, then you're not going to do the things that you need to do to benefit other sentient beings and bring yourself and other sentient beings happiness. Now here, this is a 2-line stanza in English. I'm going to just, this is a total translator thing. This has really very little to do with the meaning of the text. You might wonder why the stanza has 2 lines. It's because in Sanskrit, when you make lines with these comparisons, then they often repeat words several times. So the first line of this begins the words yata yata, and I don't remember the rest of the couplet. And then the second line begins with tata tata, which means basically just as, and then that much, that much. And in English, we don't have to do that. It sounds kind of funny if you do that. So in English, it actually, and then the words are shorter in English, and I could actually can fit it on just a single couplet as opposed to being a 4-line stanza, as most of the other Sanskrit shloka are translated in this. So sometimes people think when you're looking at a translation that the translation has to match the form of the text that you're doing, exactly the same number of lines, the same order. I once had a translation that I sent to the center, and they had a single verse, and the English and Tibetan grammar are completely different. So I mixed everything up and put it in English grammar. I sent it to them. They looked at it, it had different order. They mixed the 4 lines back up in the Tibetan order and turned it into gibberish. I was like, what have they done? Not only that, it was like Rinpoche was giving a gift. It was a gift that was given out to people. I'd put the word memento, which they didn't know, and they changed it to moments, like as if it was a WeChat moment, a social media thing. So, but the point is that when you see translations, when you look at the translations from Sanskrit, this is told you go. Okay, sorry. You have to put up with me, I'm a translator. When you look at the translations from Sanskrit into Tibetan, there are many instances where they change things around, move the order around in order to fit Tibetan. So, and there are instances, even in this very work, there are some stanzas that are just one shloka, one 4-line stanza or 4 pada in Sanskrit that are translated, that normally every shloka is translated, every verse is translated onto 4 lines of Tibetan. But there are 2 instances where they've translated 4 lines onto 5. Another instance where they translated 4 lines on 3. When you look at all the many of the great translations, they almost all have places where 4 pada, 4 lines of Sanskrit are translated onto 3 or 5 lines. This just happens all the time. So there's not necessarily going to be a one-to-one correspondence of lines between the original and that if you're looking at the Sanskrit and the Tibetan. So in doing this, in doing English translation, I've started doing this. And also the Galen Karmapa encourages this. He's had a lot of experience translating things from Chinese and Tibetan into Chinese. And he takes great interest in whenever I do something for his holiness, he looks at it very carefully. And he always encourages me, make it into English. Change it around, make it into English. So their translations really should read like, like they're written in English. And it's okay to change the order and so forth to put it in an English way of expression. So that's where did we come from? So, oh yes, the more that I protect this body, the more it gets too tender and falls. So if we spend too much time taking care of the body and being so careful about the body that it prevents us from working for others, it's the body that, as we spoke about yesterday, that often makes us hungry, and therefore we do things like hunting and so forth to get food, or spraying vegetables, or whatever we're going to do. And so if we're taking too much care of the body, then that causes us to do misdeeds that cause us to fall into the lower realm. So this is the issue we have here. If the desire of one who's fallen in such a way can't be fulfilled by even this entire earth, who is there that can meet their wants? So when you get too attached to bodily things, like when people get attached to wealth, I mean, you think about the billionaire club these days, and there are lots of stories in the media about billionaires who are trying to rivaling each other. Who's going to be the richest in the world? Is it going to be Mark Zuckerberg, or is it going to be Elon Musk, or is it going to be someone else tomorrow? And when the current number one turns into number three, are they going to be upset? No matter how much wealth you have, you'd never have enough. If even if you had a mountain of gold, you still wouldn't have enough. No matter, the desires are insatiable, because the desires are not satisfied by actually getting what you think you want. The desires, that actually just increases the desire. You get a little bit of something, you like it. You know, it's kind of like heroin. Take a little bit, you want more. Then you want more, and you keep wanting it. When no matter how much it destroys everything else, you want more and more. So our desire for anything is similar. Heroin is the opioids are an extreme example because they also do some strange things to your body chemistry. Although that body chemistry actually ends up working on your mind. It's your mind essentially, but because of the way it works with the body chemistry, it must be much harder. I'm not going to go there in terms of the way it works because I haven't researched it, but essentially the craving is in your mind. And so when we have craving for anything, you want more, 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 more. You have already had enough, but that delicious pastry is just too much to pass away. You can't do it. There's still another cookie. You better have it, even if you've already know that you've already had enough. You have enough money, but you still feel like you need to earn more or invest it in something that's going to give a better return. Especially people who have money that they can invest. You know, you get a certain amount, you have plenty to cover yourself for the rest of your life. And what do you do? You better put it in a growth fund. And so, well, you get to the end of your life and it's like, well, what are you going to do with it? You've got more money than you could possibly spend. I'll pass it on to my children. Well, what are they going to do with it? Insatiable desires produce afflictions and degenerate thoughts. Those not dependent on anything have never ending excellence. So the more you want, the more the afflictions are going to increase, because afflictions come from habituation. You start doing something. One cigarette leads to two. One gain, one small win at the slot machine makes you want to put in more in the slot machine. So you want to keep playing more and more, and it ruins you in the end. But you have to do it because you're too attached to it. So those not dependent upon anything, those who aren't attached to anything have never-ending excellence. When you have no attachments, you don't care about anything in this lifetime, whatever happens is just excellent. So don't give physical desires an opportunity to grow. Not clinging to anything as being desirable is the finest thing. So as it continually says in many of the sutras and the works of Nagarjuna, where Nagarjuna said that the greatest wealth is few desires and contentment. Not wanting more, being happy with what you have. If you are happy with what you have, no matter how much or how little it is, then you're the most happy person. Shall I tell the story? The Karma has told this story many times. I don't know how many, or have I told you before? I don't know. But I have to tell a story. So there was this rich guy, rich merchant. He had a nice house, and he did his business, and every night he'd go home and he'd count his gold coins. Spend all night calculating and doing the accounting, you know. Kind of like, you know, people who have their own business, you do your own business during the day, then you go home at night, you have to do accounting. And every Saturday morning, you have to do an accounting and payroll. I remember my grandmother used to do that with my grandfather's business, you know. You're always spending that time counting the pennies and all this. So this guy was going back and he was counting his pennies at night. his gold coins at night. And he was always worried about something, you know, is business going to go well, this deal, that deal. There's always a lot of worry. And right outside of his house, there was a beggar who just sort of camped out in a little shack right next door. And every night this beggar, and he knew the beggar, of course, he'd seen the beggar all the time. Every night the beggar would come home and sit in his house and sing songs, enjoy himself, relax. So this rich guy was sitting there, you know, counting and doing the accounting, and it was Tibet, so they probably didn't have to worry about the IRS, but they had to worry about the lords from philosophy who were going to come and take half of their money. They had to make sure that they had to come, because, and if you didn't, then you got your hands chopped off and all this. There's a lot of worry. So, you know, the beggar is worrying, and this guy's saying, he has nothing. Why is he singing every night? I have everything. I'm not singing. What's going on? Then he had an idea. He has nothing and I have something. I'm going to see, maybe there's something else. So that night, that next day, while the beggar was out, the rich guy took one gold piece and he put it in the beggar's shack. That night, the rich guy is sitting there doing the accounting. And he hears the beggar come back. And the beggar's not singing that night. The beggar comes back and he sees this piece of gold. And like, my God, where did this come from? Where did I get it? What am I going to do with it? Maybe I should buy myself clothes. Maybe I should buy myself some food. I don't know. Is this enough money for me to like afford my own house? I don't know. And so he's spending his whole night worrying about this. And the rich guy is sort of standing there peering out his window. He's not singing because he has the gold coin. When he didn't have anything, he didn't care. He was singing. He was enjoying himself. He has a good time. That's the story. All right. In the end, it will end up as ashen, moved by something else. Why do I grasp at this unclean and frightening form as being me? So this body, this is talking about our clinging to our bodies, pampering our bodies, taking care of our bodies, and fulfilling our physical desires is for the sake of a body that in the end is impermanent and will die. So in the end, it will end up as ash, or you could translate it also as dust. In the end, it's going to just become nothing. It'll be cremated and become ash. It'll disintegrate and become dust. When you die, it is unmoving. Or if it's moved, it's going to be carried on a, 4 pallbearers are going to carry it off to the charnel ground or to wherever. They're going to put it in the back of the hearse. You know, you're not going to move. It's not going to move on its own. So moving on its own, moved by someone else. And so why do I grasp at this unclean and frightening form as being me? So the unclean form is like we were speaking about last weekend. It's the body that is just a sack of filth, a cage of bones that's plastered with the mud of flesh. So why do we grasp at this as being me? That's only because from the moment of conception, we grasped and thought, this is me. So we continue now, however many years later, however many decades later, we're still grasping at this, sack of flesh as being me, and frightening form. No matter whether it's live or dead, what use have I of this machine? If it's no different from a clod, alas, why not be rid of pride? So it's no different. This machine is referring to the body. A clod means a clod of dirt, right? A lump of earth is a clod. And so we get proud of it. We think, oh, okay, I'm in shape now. I can lift this much more. I can run this far. I can do this much bike thing. I can do whatever I can do. I'm happy with this body. I'm proud of this body. Or we think I'm beautiful, or we try to make ourselves beautiful. We try to indulge our bodies with pride. But if it's no difference than a piece of earth, then why bother doing so? Because of doting on this body, I've brought myself pointless miseries. So not just this body in this lifetime, but because of the doting on our body in all of our previous lifetimes, because of getting attached to it and acting, performing misdeeds in order to protect this body. Because of that, we've brought ourselves many pointless miseries. When you're suffering the miseries of hell, or even the miseries of a human lifetime, if you have not encountered the Dharma, if you are not doing anything good with your body, then it's just pointless. And it becomes from attachment. So what use is getting attached or angry for this body, which is the same as wood, essentially in being matter, It's no difference than a log. This is an image that comes up in was it the 5th chapter? It's like a log that I'll remain, I'll just stay here. I'm not going to give in to the attachment desires. The body is like, it's just a material thing. There's no difference essentially between a material piece of wood and this body. The only difference is which do we grasp as being me. That's whether I take care of it or vultures and the like consume it. So whether you're taking care of it or it's off being eaten, being eaten by scavengers, it feels no attachment or aversion. So when you feel attachment or aversion, that's in your mind. It's not your body. It's the mind that feels that. When there is a sensation, yes, these senses, the sensory faculties are located in the body, but it is the mind that senses, that is the experience. The Buddhist way we talk about it, you have the object, you have the faculty, those two come together and produce the consciousness. So it's the consciousness that has the mental factor of feeling, that is consciousness, right? So the body itself is not feeling attachment or aversion, so why am I attached to it? If it is not itself aware of anger when it is disparaged, so if someone is criticizing you and saying you're ugly, you're too whatever, you're too this, too that, and you're getting angry, your body that is to this or to that is not getting angry. It's your mind that's getting angry. When you hear the sounds, okay, your eardrums are vibrating back and forth, but the eardrums don't know what that means. Your ear consciousness does not know what that means. It's your mind consciousness that puts those together and says, oh, people in the world understand these worlds as being insults, therefore I'm going to get angry. They said, I'm to this. They said, I have a big nose and yellow hair. That's what Tibetans call Westerners, people with yellow hair and big noses. So I have yellow hair and big nose, right? The big nose doesn't hear that, doesn't care. The yellow hair, doesn't even have any senses in it. Of course, there's not even any yellow hair left. So if it is not itself aware of anger when it is disparaged and pleasure when it is admired, who am I tiring myself for? It's not for the sake of the body. The body doesn't care. If you should say that someone who is fond of this body is my friend, everyone's fond of their own body, so why am I not fond of them? There's no difference between our body and anyone else's. They're all lumps of flesh, all the same in that way. And so there's no difference between someone being fond of our body or someone being fond of someone else's body. So they're all friends in this way. Why we should also be fond of them. So I'll give up without attachment this body for wanderer's benefit. Therefore, though it has many faults, I'll keep it, using it to act. Now, these are two important lines because it's saying your body is important. And earlier in the work, Shantideva says it's like a boat. You need to use the boat to get across the ocean of samsara. So here we need to use our bodies to act for wanderer's benefit. We give it over to without attachment for wanderer's benefit. That means you have to do things. And if you don't have a body, then you aren't able to interact with other sentient beings who, they don't have clairvoyance and they're not able to really see things. So we have to take care of this body so that we're able to interact with other sentient beings. Even if you want to speak to other sentient beings, you have to use your body to produce the sounds that they then interpret as speech. So we need to take care of our bodies. So you should not be attached to your body, but you should take care of your body. Taking care of your body has a limit, though. You need to look at yourself very carefully. How much time do you spend per day taking care of your body? How much time do you spend per day doing your Dharma practice? Okay, so you get up in the morning, you wash your face, that's taking care of your body. You brush your teeth, that's taking care of the body. You shave on some days, or you don't shave. Well, you might shave different parts. I mean, I better not go there. Okay. You shower, you clean. Okay, so how long does that take you? You eat breakfast, how long does that take you? You eat lunch, how long does that take you? You eat dinner, how long does that take you? You put on your clothes, how long does that take you? You put on makeup, how long does that take you? You sleep at night, how long does that take you? You're doing that to take care of your body. Now, of course, it's important to do things. You have to take care of your body. So like sleep at night is important. Brushing your teeth is important. You've got to have a limit. Oh, then you do exercise. The guilty one here. So you have to take care of your body, but how much time, how much effort are you putting into your body? How much effort are you putting into Dharma? What's the balance? So though it has many faults, so we can look at the body. Yes, it's the locus of many of our attachments. It is, we do bad things in order for it, but if we use it properly, it's good. This is still a precious human body. Now, this doesn't mean this, you shouldn't be too attached to it. You know, like if you have too many different types of skin cream, you may well be going overboard. But or whatever. Maybe I shouldn't talk about it in specific, but you look at yourself and see how much effort and how much money are you putting into your body? How much are you putting into Dharma practice? I've had enough of childish conduct. I'll follow the footsteps of the wise, recalling the words on carefulness. I'll ward off sleep and sluggishness. So here, what we're talking about in particular, now that Shantideva has had enough of childish conduct, he's gone, followed the footsteps of the wise, gone off into the retreat, and is practicing meditation, recalling the words on carefulness. The words on carefulness, this means the fourth chapter, the way of the Bodhisattva. Remembering what Shantideva taught there about recalling the impermanence, the defects of samsara, and so forth, as a way to encourage yourself to be careful of karmic cause and effect and devote yourself to Dharma practice. So remembering those words, and also warding off sleep and sluggishness. So sleep and sluggishness refers to one of the five different, what do we say, obscurations of meditation. And my slides are a little bit out of order. The next slide here talks about the 5 obscurations. So those of you who are looking, the those of you who are listening in person, you don't get to see it on screen, I'm sorry. But I'll go through them. There are 5 different obscurations to meditation that are taught in the sutras and also in the treatises. So the first of these is agitation and regret. That's number 1, agitation and regret. The second is malice. The third is torpor and sleep. The fourth is pleasure seeking. And the 5th is doubt. So these are 5 different obscurations that prevent us from actually being able to have good, deep meditation. And these are things that come up with us in our meditation. So you have to be able to recognize them when you're meditating in order to be able to apply the antidotes. So the first of them is agitation and regret. It's the first one. It's 2 different things. Agitation is one thing and regret is another. So what do we mean by agitation and regret? So agitation and regret. So agitation means when you're getting excited about something. It could be something good that you want to do. There's a big event coming up that you're all excited about. You get to see Aunt Edna and Uncle Tashi, right? You're excited. You haven't seen them from years. You do whatever it is that's going to make you excited. And you're thinking about that a lot. That's excitement. So something that gets you up. Or are you thinking about having fun doing something? Or you might be thinking about something that agitates you in a negative way. So when your mind is agitated, you're thinking about things and it prevents you from coming to rest. The second one is regret. Now, regret is looking at something you have already done and thinking, oh, that wasn't good. Now, there are 2 types of regret in general. There is regret for the bad things you've done in the past, like regretting murdering your Aunt Edna or whatever. anything that you've been, that's kind of a silly example in some ways, but the bad things you've done in this life that you're regretting those. So that's one type of regret. Another type of regret is when you regret the good things that you've done. I shouldn't have given that much away. I gave away too much. I shouldn't have done that. Now what'll I have? So these are two different types of regret. Of these two different regret, in general, the first type of regret is in general positive. It's good. And the second type of regret is actually unvirtuous. It's bad. But in the context of meditation, both of them prevent your mind from coming to rest. So both of these, any type of regret, it prevents your mind from resting in shamatha. So, like for example, many of you are doing Vajrasattva practice. When you think about specific things that you've done that were wrong and you get too involved in those, regretting it. Now, of course, you should regret things when you're doing a confession practice such as Vajrasattva. But if you're so busy regretting the things that you've done that you lose track of your meditation, that's not good. So instead of going over and over the stories in your mind and regretting them, you instead rest on the meditation. The thing comes to mind, and so in the context of your Vajrasattva practice, then you would use the visualization and so forth to cleanse yourself of that and visualize yourself being cleansed of that instead of getting worked up in regret. Of course, you have to regret it as strongly as if you'd eaten poison. But that doesn't mean that you want to get involved with. So that first obscuration is the agitation and regret. So that's the first obscuration, agitation, regret. This prevents your mind from coming to rest. Now, the second obscuration here is the obscuration of malice. And malice means when you basically have the wish to harm other sentient beings. And so that is always concurrent or associated with displeasure. And because it's concurrent with displeasure, then it leads to hatred. It's like a precursor to hatred, and it prevents you from resting in comfort. So when you're resting in meditation, you want to be comfortable. So if you're feeling malice and that provokes displeasure, displeasure then leads to hatred, hatred then leads to anger, your mind is not going to rest. Right. So you need to, so if you have a malicious thought, you need to let it go. So that is with the second obscuration. Then the third obscuration is torpor and sleep. Now in the verse of the way the Bodhisattva, I translated as sleep and sluggishness. So sleep is, when you're like totally falling off to sleep. Sluggishness, there are kind of three levels here of torpor. First, you've got the level of dullness, which is like kind of just your mind being a little dull, not being sharp. Then you kind of go a little bit further to the level of torpor. And that is you're really not there. It's a little bit deeper than dullness, but it's not quite sleep. And then sleep is when you start falling asleep in your meditation. So these prevent excuse me. So these prevent are obstacles to clarity of meditation. It's important when you're meditating that you have clarity, right? If you don't have clarity in meditation, then you're just training yourself in dullness and in ignorance. The fourth is pleasure seeking. Oh, and torpor and sleep, because they both have the same function, even though they're two different mental factors, even though they're two different things, problems, they're related, and so they're counted as one. Pleasure seeking is when you want sensory pleasures, food, comfort, a feeling of pleasure, and so forth. And so that prevents you from your mind from being workable. So when you're sitting in samadhi, the idea is your mind should be pliable and workable. Pliable and workable means that when you set your mind to a task, that it'll be willing to do it. It's kind of like if you have pizza dough. You need your pizza dough. If you over knead your pizza dough, then you can't stretch it out. It's too tight. You have to let it rest for a while. Then you can stretch your pizza dough into a nice big pizza round. This is really I can't use this example in Asia, but you guys probably all know about making pizza dough, right? If it's not, if the dough is not relaxed, then it won't stay in the shape. So it's the same way. If your mind is like that tense ball of dough that you've overworked the gluten, you have to let it rest. So that pleasure seeking is like overkneading your mind. Ooh, this is bad. I bet I'm embarrassed for having this a terrible example. Okay. And then the last one is doubt. And that's doubt is wondering, okay, in the context of of course, there are many different types of doubt, but doubt here is thinking, is this meditation? Maybe it is. I'm not sure. Let me rest. Maybe not. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. So that's what we mean by doubt, in particular in the Course. Of course, there are different types of doubt. There's the doubt, you can also have the doubt when you're doing insight of, is the body really impermanent or not? Is the body repulsive or not? Or is this the nature of my mind or not? There's also that type of doubt. So there are kind of differences with doubt. You can have the doubt where you're actually the doubt about the thing that you're investigating. So in the context of Mahamudra meditation that many of us have studied, it's like, is this the nature of my mind or not? When you're looking at, am I seeing it, or do I have anything conceptual in my mind? So there's in a sense, there's the question that leads you to investigate. But when you have the question that leads you to investigate, for example, you take a look, is everything impermanent? Are my five aggregates impermanent? If you're doing one sort of meditation, is this the nature of my mind? So you sort of set the question and then you look, right? And at that point, you're not worrying about the question. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, is that it or is it not? That's the doubt. So it's kind of maintaining it in your mind. That's the level of doubt that we're speaking about. And so this prevents us from developing both insight and shamatha meditation. So it's an obscuration to meditation. So these are the 5 obscurations. So those of you who are listening in person who aren't seeing my screen, you get the quiz now. What are the 5? Oh, even better. Now no one can see it. What are the 5 obscurations? Agitation and regret.
Malice.
Malice. Okay. Torpor and sleep. Well, you guys are good. Okay. Doubt. Oh, that was the 5th. What was the 5th? Was pleasure seeking. All right, you guys got them. And how many are there actually? 7. But some of them are counted together. Which ones are counted together? Torpor and sleep. Agitation and regret. Okay, you guys are good. Maybe you studied this before. Maybe you just picked it up. Anyway, that's good. So it's important for us to recognize these, and so that we can be able to apply the antidotes for them when they occur in our meditation. So I'm not going to go through the antidotes this afternoon. I think those of you who have been at the retreats with Rinpoche that he used to give here in Maine, you have heard him speak about the antidotes, and I'm sure they come up in your Monday and Wednesday groups. You can all speak about those in the groups and discuss them amongst yourselves. So where are we? Here we are. Back to the verse. Like the compassionate bodhisattvas, I'll have the proper fortitude. If I don't strive both day and night, when will my sufferings reach an end? So we have to try as hard as we can, use as much energy as we can. Now, again, you have to work this to do this to the level of your ability. But we have to do everything we can to make use of every moment of this short and precious opportunity. In the words of Mikyo Dorje, that I haven't died yet is so wondrous. There's no certainty I won't die tomorrow. For me, a hard-headed one who's so attached to the needs of this present life, please look at me with compassion, O Jules. Grant me, bless me so that I can spend day and night practicing virtue. Please look at me with compassion, grasp me with, look at me with your wisdom, grasp me with compassion. So we need to be able to spend day and night practicing virtue, devoting as much of our time as we can to the practice of virtue. So in the case of Mikhail Dorje, this meant that when he was studying day and night. He spent several years devoted to study, where the only nourishment he took was a couple of cups of tea per day. It's like 3 years. Tibetan tea, of course, has butter in it, but he didn't have anything else. He grew really thin during the time. He was just always studying, devoting himself to study. We have, of course, there are the examples I spoke about last week of Karak Gomchung, lived on turnips for 11 years, and the famous example of Milarepa living off of nettles until he turned blue. So these are what look to us as like extreme examples of diligence, but really putting as much effort as we can into our Dharma practice. And this means that we have to start by directing our minds towards virtue, directing our minds toward Dharma, no matter what we're doing. So Dharma practice does not necessarily mean that you have to leave the world right away, because you have to be ready to leave the world. If you try to leave your life now and go off and be like Mikhail Dorje and subsist on Tibetan tea, or nettles like Milarepa, or turnips like Karak Gomchung, now you get to pick which of these sounds more appetizing to you. If you try to do this and you are not ready and you are still attached, you're going to have problems. So you have to get yourself ready. What that means is that whatever you are doing day and night, you have to make sure that you're doing it with a Dharma focus. This is why when we have any meditation practice, we have also a post-meditation practice that goes with it. So when you are doing, many of you are doing the Nandura practices, where you are visualizing the deity in the form of Vajradhara for most of them, or the form of Vajrasattva. So you always visualize the deity. When you are doing the practice, of course, you're visualizing the guru in the form of Vajradhara, Vajrasattva. Then when you're not, then you remember that the guru is above the crown of your head, and either as Vajradhara or Vajrasattva, depending on which phase of the practice you're doing. If you're going, you remember think of the guru as being up to the right shoulder. When you're eating, thinking of the guru being in the throat, so that you can, everything you are eating is an offering of divine nectar to the guru. When you are sleeping, imagining that the guru comes down through the crown of your head into your heart, and so that you visualize the radiant form of the guru in your heart, so that when you're falling asleep with the consciousness of the guru. That's the post-meditation practice for the Ngondro. If you're focusing on the mind training, then you need to, of course, you're doing the Tonglen meditation in your meditation practice, but you also try to do it as much as you can in your daily practice, with one caveat: not when you are driving. Do not try to practice meditation while you are driving, unless you have a Tesla with autopilot, and even then, be careful. No, don't try. Don't even go there. So no meditation when driving, but other times you should always remember the practice of Tonglen. Always keep the slogans from the 7 points of mind training in mind. Remind yourself of these continually. And also remember the guru who taught them, this kind spiritual friend who taught them to you. Keep them in mind all the time. For those of you who are doing deity practices or guru, then you remember the deity practice. For example, if your main practice is Medicine Buddha, then even when you get up from your meditation, you've got your formal meditation of doing Medicine Buddha, you get up from the Medicine Buddha practice and you continue to visualize yourself as the Medicine Buddha practice. It may not be as clear. It's probably not as clear as it is in your actual meditation practice, but you remember that. As you are going around, you remember the Buddha, the Medicine Buddha, either above the crown of your head or to your right side as you're walking. You keep the sound of the mantra in your mind, or you recite it to yourself in your post-meditation. In brief, what you're doing is trying to devote as much of your time to the Dharma practice. So you use these techniques, the post-meditation, to devote your mind to Dharma practice. So in this way, as you go about your daily lives, then you are using your life as Dharma practice. Then your meditation in the formal meditation periods will become stronger. And that in turn enhances your post-meditation practice. If you just do the post-meditation practice, and if you just do the Dharma practice without the post-meditation, it's not going to work. If you just do the post-meditation without doing the practice, it's not going to be strong. You have to do the two together. Because we can put together the formal practice and the formal practice and the post-meditation, we can then make it so that we are able to do practice around the clock. And you even remember the instructions for how to do post-meditation when you're going to sleep, then your sleep can also become a virtuous practice. At the very least, you can make the aspiration, may I rest myself well now so that I can be able to continue benefiting sentient beings when I wake up in the morning. So this is how you direct your whole life towards the Dharma, which of course requires a lot of carefulness, mindfulness, and awareness. But it's something we can do. And as you do that more, as you take the four thoughts that turn the mind Dharma more to heart, then you'll find that you will be able to develop the ability to devote yourself more and more fully to Dharma. And then maybe someday we will be able to be like Mikya Dorje, Milarepa, Karup Gongchung, all of the other great beings. There are stories of the 16th Karmapa said that he didn't sleep much at all. Some people say, I don't know if this is true or not, that Siddha Rinpoche does not sleep. And I don't know if that's true or not. I've heard it said. What are they doing? What are these great masters doing? They're devoting themselves to Dharma practice all the time, 24-hour, 24/7. And so if we start training ourselves now, we can move to that. It's not like they skipped the stage that we're in now. They just went through it before. So we can also get to the stage that they're at. So this is the point here. And so that is what we need to do. So if we strive both day and night, if we don't do this, what's going to happen to us? Then we're going to end up cycling through samsara. Maybe we'll get lucky and have a human birth again. Maybe some other karma will take over and we won't be human again for many lifetimes. It's hard to tell. When will our sufferings reach an end? Thus, to dispel the obscuration, I'll turn my mind from the wrong paths, and I will rest continuously in equipoise with the right focus. So here, this is the last stanza of the chapter. It's like a summary of the whole chapter. In order to overcome, the point of meditation is to overcome the obscurations, the cognitive and afflictive obscurations, basically clinging to a self, clinging to the idea of there being some real self and other. So in order to overcome that, we'll turn our mind away from the wrong paths, develop the solitude of body and mind, and then rest continuously in equipoise in meditation with the right focus, with the mind resting on the meditation on relative bodhicitta, which brings us both the benefits of shamatha and of insight in terms of overcoming our clinging to self and other on a relative level. And so this is the end of the chapter here. And so that means it's also more or less the end of our teaching for this year, for these 2 weekends. And so at this point, I'd like to, what do we say? I'd like to express my thanks to all of you for participating, for hosting me so well and taking such good care of me while I've been in Portland for this. It's been a week and a half. And so I feel very grateful that I have the opportunity to come and make Dharma connections with some of you, renew Dharma connections with others. But I'm just delighted to be able to come to Portland again after a couple of years, 2.5 years or so, and to see all of you keeping the center going, doing what you can, now figuring out how to bring things back together after 2 years of Zoom. And so moving forward, and I think it looks like things are going well. And I think that you all have a good reason to be optimistic. Optimistic for yourselves as individuals and optimistic for this group. In terms of being optimistic for the group, the fact that you're all here, that you've kept together, you've done a good job. You've had this group going for now quite a few years, 20, I don't remember exactly how many years, but it's been a long time. And the only reason it's here is because of all of you participating and coming and taking interest in the Dharma and devoting yourself, devoting your energies to the Dharma. And this is all an excellent sign. There have been many people who've come and contacted the Dharma through this group. And some of them may only come for a few intro classes or a few days of an intro class, not even the whole thing. Some may come for a year or two. Some may come for longer times, but everyone that who's come and met, and even just walked through the shrine room doors and seen the shrine and thought, oh, and then walked out, has had an imprint placed in them that at some point in the future will waken. And those people who've come and stayed longer have, even who've only stayed for a short time, have had an imprint. Those people who've gone on elsewhere, they've had imprints. And so this is all because of your work in terms of starting and keeping the center going and doing this. You're doing the service of the Buddha, the service of the Guru. Like Trungpa Rinpoche, you developed devotion for Trungpa Rinpoche and the precious lineage of the Karma Choephel and started this group. And you have been doing this. So this is service. Service means that you're doing your action. And what this does is when we think about how does someone like Trungpa Rinpoche bring benefit to sentient beings? Well, of course, Rinpoche comes and makes personal connections with people when he comes and travels, or he did that in the past when he was younger. And maybe he'll be able to do it in the future, but maybe not. But he made connections with many of you, and then it moves out. And some of you who haven't ever actually met Rinpoche in person or have only seen him in a time or two have made connections with the center. And then more and more connections, and it goes out, one thing leading to another. And it may seem small, but you have to remember that it's exponential. Even if it's only 0.1% growth per year, eventually 0.1% growth per year is going to turn into the hockey puck. Right? You remember that from the beginning of the epidemic, they were talking about, well, there's this R rate and it's like expanding at this rate. And so you look at it and there's the hockey puck. Well, those were actually very low percentages of growth per unit of time that just coming over time did a hockey puck, that exponential growth. So even if you're only doing a little bit of good for sentient beings, or if it only seems to you like you're only, oh, there are only just a couple people who we touch, in a year, actually you're touching more people. And that growth over time, even in ways that you can't see, brings incredible benefit. This is Rinpoche's blessing. So you are performing the activity of Trungpa Rinpoche. You're performing the activity of the karma through your service. And so this is an excellent thing that you have done for now quite a number of years. And even if you cannot see the benefit, even if the benefit ripens in 1,000 years or 1,000 eons, that's the benefit that you've done. So this is a really important thing to remember and something to take heart about for the future of what you are doing here in Portland with this center. Or what you're doing in any other center, because I know there are people here who are down east. It's the same thing at the down east Vajra Vidya. It's the same people, same at any Dharma center. But of course, we're Trungpa Center, so we have to be like, so the Vajra Vidya, this is how the activity grows, slowly. I've had the opportunity to serve Rinpoche and the opportunity to serve the Gyalon Karmapa. And you talk about the activity of the guru. Well, it's a lot of people doing a lot of hard work for the gurus. Rinpoche built the monastery in Namo Buddha. Does that mean that Rinpoche was out there laying bricks? No. Other people were doing a lot of hard work. And so the hard work that you are doing is the service to the Guru, and it definitely is bringing benefit to other people. You can see yourself what the benefit is. You can look at yourself. What was I like before? What am I like now? If you were not seeing improvement in yourself, you would not have signed up for this weekend. You wouldn't be here. You would have been elsewhere. So the fact that you're seeing that it's a sign. It's good. This is the activity of the Guru. So I'd like to thank you all very much for doing this activity on the behalf of Rinpoche and the Gyalwang Karmapa and the precious lineage of the Karma Kaju. So that's why we can be optimistic about the center. And we can be optimistic about ourselves because you are coming back. You are doing this. You're putting the time in. You are coming year after year, time after time, or even if it's not year after year yet, you are interested in coming back, even if it's just a second time, even if it's just a third time. This is an excellent sign because you start with a small seed and it comes to a large result. And so this is another excellent thing to do. And so you have every reason to be optimistic. It will come to a fruition. The speed at which the rate at which it comes to a fruition depends upon you. And it's not anything that you can hurry. It's not like I should be faster than I am. I should be working harder than I am. I should be doing this. I should be doing that. It's not a question of should. It's a question of looking at yourself, looking at the nature of your existence, looking at the nature of your life, the nature of the experiences that you have, and seeing, what am I going to do to help myself? What am I going to do to help myself in this life? What am I going to do to help myself in the future? And when you take that to heart and you really think about it, it's like there's nothing else I can do. When you meditate on bodhicitta, when you do Tonglen practice, when you exchange yourself for others, or even when you start to think about the equality of self and the other, and you see what an actually radical idea it is, how different it is from how we normally look at things, and you start to take it to heart. And what does that do? So you think about your motivation, you work on your motivation, you don't worry about where you are, work on your motivation, develop the bodhicitta, develop the revulsion for this world. And as you do so, your Dharma practice is naturally going to follow because you'll want to do it. And when you want to do it, then you'll find yourself to be able to do more and more. So this is a reason to have great hope for yourselves as individuals. And when we have great hopes for ourselves as individuals, we find ourselves in a time in the world when it's kind of reverting to its more normal state, frankly. We had a long period of time. Most of us were born in a time when everything in the world seemed on the outside, especially for people who looked like us, to be pretty good. And then things start to change. It looks like things are going bad. There is a lot of turmoil in the last few years. There's now this war in Ukraine that looks like it might possibly go very bad. It's hard to tell. The epidemic seems to be like, who knows where it's going. It never seems like it's going to end in some respect. And so we're reverting back to the more normal condition of human life compared to where we were. But we can have hope. Because the amount of suffering that it causes for us personally is related to the amount of ego clinging that we have. The more that we overcome our own ego clinging, first by subduing it, then by uprooting it, and by meditating on that and getting to even the deepest conceptual roots of it. The more that we can do that, the more we can help others do the same. This will eventually lead to good for all sentient beings, even if it looks terrible in the short term. So there's a lot of reason to be hopeful. So I'd like to thank you all very much for putting up with me for 2 weekends, putting me up and putting up with me. So thank you very much. I appreciate coming back here and seeing all of you, my friends in Dharma and other ways. So thank you very much. I thought you might, and after you make the offering, then we'll have to do the dedication prayers, of course. But yes. Well, first we'd like to thank you so much for coming again and again to teach wonderful effects. And you've left us with a great sense of anticipation about the famous ninth chapter. Oh yes. But the vast amount of work you've done translating and teaching and regulating knowledge that's very, very well. All comes through in extremely rich teachings. I mean, you've been a model of exertion and discipline for all of us, and most of all, you've been a great friend to this group and all of us. Thank you so much for coming. Come back and the next chapter and more. And we have an offering from the group. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Your encouragement.
My pleasure. Well, I am, what do we say? I am very grateful for you all for these offerings. And so as in order to allow you all to gather the accumulation of merit, I'm accepting them. So I've accepted the offerings now. Thank you very much. And now in order to gather the accumulation of merit myself, I would like to offer these all back to the group. So thank you very much. And I'd like to offer them all back. So whoever is representing the group, I would like to, Tracy, so that please use these as you see fit to promote the activities of Vajra Vidya Portland. So thank you very much. So thank you. Quite a racket. I'm so lucky.
As are we.
All right. So let's see, I have to get this ready. Oh, where we are. There we go. So we will begin with the long life prayers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Gyeongwon Karmapa, and then the new long life prayer for Khenpo David Rinpoche, followed by the, what do we say? Followed by the prayers for rebirth and Sukhavati, and then finally the dedication to merit. So now as we make this dedication, we should think to ourselves, well, why are we making long life prayers for the great beings? It's because they perform the activity of benefiting sentient beings, of benefiting the Dharma, everything that all of us, we've all been touched by, to some degree, by all three of them and by many other great beings, going back to the Shakyamuni Buddha. And so for those who are still present in the world for us, if there are no great beings in the world, then we'd be bereft, we'd be lost, we wouldn't know what we're doing. And so we need to pray for them to remain as long as we can. But when we pray for the long life of the Dalai Lama and the Gyeongwon Karmapa and Khenpo David Rinpoche, even though we're praying specifically for those three, we should also remember that we're also at the same time, as a representation of that, as an extension of that, we're also praying for the long life of all the great beings who uphold all of the true, genuine teachings, Dharma teachings that can be practiced. And so we pray for this, wishing that that these beings who are for us, as it's said in Tibetan, like the eyes in our head, the heart in our chest, that they may live long. that we may be able to, and so that they may live long, may we be able to serve them. So being able to serve them means we have to be able to understand their teachings and internalize their teachings, meditate on their teachings, realize the meaning of what they have taught. So we need to devote ourselves to our practice and study to serve them, devote ourselves to the Dharma activity to serve them. And the reason why we're doing this is to benefit all sentient beings. So we are dedicating this all so that all sentient beings may achieve the state of Buddhahood. And until such time as they do, then they may be reborn in places where they can come in contact with genuine spiritual teachers who will lead them to an authentic result. So we pray that they not be reborn in the lower realms, and that those who are in the lower realms may die and be reborn in a place where they come in contact with the Dharma as soon as possible. Sorry, no chicken for dinner. They'll all die. Well, maybe there'll be a lot of chicken soup. I don't know. That's a bad joke. But that they die and be reborn in a place where they can contact the Dharma and speedily achieve the state of Buddhahood. And as someone who is supported entirely by the benefit that others give me, of course, we're all dependent upon others, all those who support us. We pray that they who make it possible for us to do what we do, that they may also, not only may they reach Buddhahood and have good luck, good fortune, good and benefit in their Dharma practice. May everything go well for them in their lives. May they be happy, healthy, live long, and fulfill all their wishes in accord with the Dharma. And so, in short, we should dedicate this so that all sentient beings quickly develop bodhicitta and achieve the state of Buddhahood. So please, thinking in this way, let us recite the dedication prayers. ram dransong drupa nam yu tu da ge la san ge we den to ge zhi shen wen ba ge me run yor sa me ye she tam be du zi ne chi me zi bom bar chil ve zi nyam ye sung jo cha gi le zin ba zi wa ve ba me be ge le zo je me da ve ge gyan che do je long do che gi yura si ze bar ke zhen zhe be lu to yon zo ba ma ve sen ge qian ni zo shi zo ya dan ya se tu wo che na da ha rong zhang song zhu ba nam yi tu da ge la sam ge wei ben do yi zhi shen ben ba ge me zhu jiu zhi. Between your hands, united in equipoise, you hold the vase of deathlessness that collects the nectar of the highest undefiled wisdom. Lord of life, Amitayus, grant auspiciousness. Far and wide you sound the roar of fearless view. Up to the peak of existence blazes your turquoise mane of the Dharma of scripture and realization. You have perfected the physical strength of being learned, venerable, and accomplished. Lion of speech, I ask you to live long. By the power of the victors, of their foremost offspring, of the gods and sages and siddhas, and by the strength of the truth of my pure intentions, may my prayer be accomplished without any obstacles. I supplicate that the lamas be healthy. I supplicate that their lives be supremely long. I supplicate that their activities spread and flourish. Bless me to never be separate from the lamas. May the glorious lamas' lotus feet be firm. May happiness come to all throughout space. May I and all others gather the accumulations, purify obscurations, and swiftly be brought to Buddhahood. Ema ho sar sanje na thai da yesu jo tu Khenpo David Karma tu chen to nam la sangye jansen ba me ko jing de jing o zar pa tu me pa yi de wa chen she ja wei xin kan der me dai ni din ne ce pu jun ma ta ke wa shen ge bar ma Choephel Deru chene nang te sha to sho de ke da ki nam ta pa di sho ju san je jang sen tam je gi ge me ru bar jin je lam du zom Tadyata Panchendriya Avabodhanaye Swa Jodu Java Seje Gong Sonyi Zola Jiran Dagi Dusum Gesapa Kunjo sumla chupamul Yahweh Damba Pejur Chigewa Sanjen drogun sanje tojurji geta tamje chidunde Ragi jula minjur chidumni tane tsozo te tsere neme nyamdo pel Sendir sajanan yorjim Namshi sepa jurmata dewa chandu ke yurjim Kene peme kajete luten de la sanye sho Chancho tomne jisu do drube droadrambar sho Chancho tomne jisu do drube droadrambar sho Zanam Sepani Tomne Neveranam Panchen Geganachi Baladrubai Sibezoledro Vadro By this merit may we attain omniscience, defeat the enemy, wrongdoing and free all wanderers from the ocean of existence, churned by great waves of birth, age, sickness, and death. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.